There were quite a few out there at Dugway.
These government documents from the U.S., Canada, Australia, Russia, and the U.K., what are some of those documents?
Oh, they run the whole gamut. For example, I have a document, it wasn't declassified, but it was provided to me by a source from Area 51, Nellis, and it lists as of the early 90s. I got it in the 90s, all the code numbers and code names that were on a security alert because there were a group of civilians who were trying to spy on the range, where they had to shut everything down because it was a large group. And it was a security alert, but it was an NRO document, National Reconnaissance Office document. And it had key names on it. It had a MAGI on it, the Majority Joint Intelligence Committee, or MAGIC. It had Cosmic Ops on it, Royal Ops. It had Blackjack Control on it. It had key actionable intelligence, and that's one of the documents I gave to some of the folks in the White House over the years, or Pentagon, because it's a legitimate document that actually gives specific code word and numbers that were out in that particular area. And it's still there. I mean, it's not like you pick up an asset like that and move it to where. So we know where they are. And that's why our 145 facilities, I've just learned of a new one that we'll be putting on that map soon. It's supposed to be taken there.
Where's this?
I can't say where, but
right
now.
Can we put the map up?
Yes, and if you put the map up, you'll see many of them are places people know. They know Edwards Air Force Base, but where? Where do you go to at the Nellis Range? It's a huge range, Air Force Base. And then the Nevada test site, which is where we tested nuclear weapons, going north. But out there's some very key assets. And there's a Delta Force Hilo base out there that's used for retrieving extraterrestrial vehicles and retrieving downed, accidentally crashed man-made ones that malfunction. So we have a man on our team who was on a retrieval operation initially for conventional aircraft, jets, for their classified components. And then he got read into an operation retrieving the man-made ones, which blew his mind, the Raytheon and Northrop ones. Then he got read into the ones that are, he was on one operation where we stunned one of these extraterrestrial vehicles. This one I showed at the event. And it didn't crash. It got stunned and landed out there on the range, the Nevada test range. And they were moved in Helos to retrieve it. And that interesting account of that, it began to come back to life. And an opening came out of it, and it looked like a fruit roll-up came down. And a couple of extraterrestrials emerged that he literally was in 3 or 4 feet of them. We have the drawing of them, of what they look like. But what happened is that at that point, that craft was being checked by helicopters in the air, as well as one of these ARVs, man-made ones, but triangular. When this thing began to sort of glow, reddish, and come to life, boom, our aircraft took off. Now the boots on the ground there and the choppers on the ground, after a few minutes, they were all, I know this sounds like Star Trek, they were all teleported back to the Hilo base instantly.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And they weren't harmed. None of them were harmed. But apparently this whole event convinced this particular operator to get out of that system, because he knew what he sensed from these ETs was that they were completely benign, very much here to help us, and we were doing horrible things to them. And they also said, we know what you're doing. We're not going to allow you to do this much longer. It was sort of a warning. That happened in 2000 and I believe that was 2010, 11 time period.
So what's your goal with the Disclosure Project?
Well, our goal is, first of all, to get this information to the key policymakers and people in the government who have responsibility for our national security, but also in other countries as well, and to the public so that they understand the difference, in my opinion, between the false information being purveyed, which is the dominant information that's out on the internet and Hollywood and shows, and the real information that needs to be understood by the public so that the public isn't deceived. So we have both an internal governmental objective to guide the government in understanding this and getting them as much detailed, actionable intelligence as possible. Like the details, and this is how they've gotten this far. The reason the bill that was just came out of committee in the Intelligence Committee is because they now understand, if you read that bill that is given sort of a safe harbor 6 months amnesty period for these corporations and people to come forward or they'll be prosecuted. That is in the bill that left committee. And I've been pushing for this for a long time. The first time I recommended it was in 1993 to Bill Clinton, and nobody wanted to do it. Now it's going to happen, but that sets a clock. And so the Disclosure Project's objective is to give the legal government of the United States that we have allegiance to, and we the people, the public, the information, so that these rogue and very criminal activities can be brought under proper supervision and control, access control. And that's not the case right now. And it's dangerous that it isn't. So it's a very big step that first in December, they signed this law allowing whistleblowers to come forward through the Pentagon process, which is a top secret SCIF situation. But now this bill is going to explicitly state that these corporations, anybody having exotic materials, clearly referring to extraterrestrial type materials, technologies, bodies, those have to be disclosed and turned over to the legal U.S. government, or they will then be subject to prosecution criminally. So that's a 6-month window now. So that clock has started.
That's a 6-month window.
Yep.
And you're also going to make all of this, which a lot of it already is, open source information.
Yes, if we could get some. You have to imagine myself and my wife and a few volunteers trying to scan, organize 8-10 terabytes of data, and then create a database system that's searchable, and then eventually get it on the internet. Now, what we do have to redact, the unredacted archive I'm giving to the top investigators in the Congress and the Pentagon group. The White House got a redacted version because they're not really leaning into this much yet, which they should be. Mm-hmm. But I have someone in the White House military office that we're providing information to. But the redacted one, just to be clear, the only thing we're holding back are the personal names of these, hundreds of whistleblowers who don't want their names known, except under certain conditions. And also, if they have a DD-214, I'm not going to release in a non-secure manner. So the folks who have the unredacted, those go into a SCIF, they go into a vault, they have it. Now, I will say on the record, anyone who says the U.S. government is not in possession of all the facts and the actual intelligence to get to the bottom of this is a liar or ignorant. They're either a liar or they're ignorant, because that was handed off 3 weeks ago, all of it. So there's actually no excuse now. The only excuse they'd have now is that they're part of a cover-up, in which case they should be prosecuted. And I'm saying even the people in the Aero office and the Pentagon, they either move on this and do it with integrity, or they should be prosecuted.